So we're very clear. So we've got 5 aspects of the serpent. Unholy da'ath. The Moshiach represents holy da'ath. What is da'ath? Knowledge. So unholy da'ath is the knowledge of good and evil. Holy da'ath is the knowledge of Yod He Wahweh that fills the earth as the waters covers the sea. So that's the messianic consciousness, and the serpent is exilic consciousness. So let's have a look. We've got the 5 types of Erev Rav. Initial letters spell Nega Ra. Nephilim, Gibberim, Anakim, Rephaim, Amalachim. They spell Nega Ra. The initial letters of all those. That means evil plague. Plague that is evil. Nega, plague, Ra, evil. And that comes to 393, which is exactly the same as the regular and ordinal of Shiloh. Okay, so Shiloh is an umbrella term for all 5 aspects of the Mashiach. I've pointed that out many times in my teachings, but we need to know it now because we are facing the coronavirus, which is an evil plague. So we need to know, where did the evil plague come from? It came from the Erev Rav. It came from the Erev Rav. Okay, we've got the first one, Nephilim there, 296. We are told, we'll see how this relates to the serpent, so just bear this in mind. Bearing in mind, we'll see the gematria when we come to the Misbah Gadol gematria. The 5 aspects of the Erev Rav equal serpent, and there is a curse upon the serpent that he will bite the heel, which means Mashiach, and he will have his head crushed. So what is the head of the serpent? It's the Nephilim. Okay, what is the tail of the serpent? It's the Amalekim. That's the tail. And when it says transform into a rod of Elohim, we've got to understand that in the Torah, Moshe's staff turned into a serpent. The staff of the Moshiach, Moshe represents the Moshiach, the Redeemer, turned into a serpent. And he was told, and he ran away from it initially, because obviously he's afraid of the serpent, and he was told, go back. And he grabbed hold of it by its tail, and it was transformed back into the rod of Elohim. Okay, so this is very significant. The rod of Elohim can be used to actually defeat Amalek. So got to understand what we've got to do with each. We've got to crush the head of the serpent, which represents the Nephilim, and who is equal or opposite that? Aaron. So bear that in mind. The power of Aaron is what crushes the head of the serpent, and that's exactly what we have got to accomplish. We've got to crush its head. Okay, we've got to transform its tail into the rod of Elohim, so something negative that actually comes to service. Bearing in mind that Amalek represents doubts primarily about Yosef, Moshiach Ben Yosef. Okay, doubts that will bring us to conclude, falsehood regarding the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef. And we need to work with all those doubts until we transform those doubts that we actually have regarding Moshiach Ben Yosef into something from the serpent, into something that is going to be useful, transform it into the rod of Elohim in the hand of Moshiach. Okay, so we've got to use what we've got. So this is very significant. The full regular of these come to 1,372. We're not going to be looking at these numbers today, but this is very important. The full ordinal, and we know the ordinal numbers represent Moshiach Ben Yosef. The regular represents Moshiach Ben David. I've done teachings on that before. If you wanted to go look at the first 6 minutes of the video with the 601, 601st year in the title, it would go through why the regular is related to Moshiach Ben David and why the ordinal is related to Moshiach Ben Yosef. So obviously we can see Od Yosef Chai, Yosef is still alive, comes to 346. This is the ultimate revelation that completely and totally annihilates this ultimate concealment. Okay, Yosef is still alive, Od Yosef Chai. Okay, so we can see Aaron's involved in that. This is all to do with Moshiach as well, the power of Moshiach to transform the tail into the rod of Elohim. By the way, when it talks about when the Bnei Israel have just left Egypt and the Amalekites are the first ones to attack them, they have absolutely no fear of heaven. Despite everything that had happened, they still went after and attacked Bnei Israel. And Moshe had to stand on the hill with his arms up in the air, and Yeshua was down in the valley taking care of Amalek. Okay, but it specifically mentions that he attacked the children of Israel that were trailing behind, and the words that are used are that was at the tail end, and it's literally the ones that were the tail. So Amalek attacks the tail, okay, because he is the tail. He's the tail of the serpent. We can see he from here. He is the tail, the Amalekim are the tail to that serpent. So we've got to take those doubts that Amalek represent, the doubts that we have in Yod He Vav He, and the doubts that we have in the concept of Moshiach Ben Yosef, and transform them into the rod of Elohim. Just need to point that out because it's so important. Okay, so let's go and have a look at this then. This is how we know it's a serpent. 5 aspects of the serpent, unholy da'ath, as opposed to 5 aspects of Moshiach, holy da'ath, holy knowledge. This is a Mispah Gadol numbering. The Mispah Gadol numbering represents that moment before the sea splits. You know, it's the splitting of the sea. It's that powerful what is it? It's just that powerful moment. The splitting of the sea occurred, according to the sages, because of the bones of Yosef, the merit of Moshiach Ben Yosef in Egypt. Okay, so the sea saw and fled. What did the sea see that caused it to separate? It was the coffin of Yosef, the casket that Yosef's bones were in, that Moshe brought out of Egypt with the children of Israel. That, according to sages, is what caused the sea to split. Okay, the Mispah Gadol numberings represent that moment where Yosef's coffin is placed before the sea and the sea is split open as a consequence of the merit of Yosef's suffering in Egypt and all that he accomplished during that exile and during his rectification. Okay, and I've pointed that out before, why that would be so, because the numbers point it towards that. And I've put that in, if you go and have a look at the teachings that I've done on Yosef's coffin or Yosef's casket, that will go through that, why the Mispah Gadol numberings are related to that. Okay, so we can see here the full ordinal of the Mispah Gadol numberings comes to 401, which is exactly the same as Nachash serpent. So Nachash is 358, which is the unholy opposite of Mashiach. Mashiach is 358, and plus it's 43 ordinally, and 43 is Esav, okay, which is physicality, and it's that Esav that we the darkness that we've got to transform into revelation. Okay, we've got to subdue the forces of our evil inclination. We've got to subdue the forces of our physicality and to subdue them to the side of holiness. We've got to transform that darkness from darkness into light. Okay, and overcome the power of the serpent that all of us have. We've all got aspects of these serpents within us, and we all see aspects of the serpent manifest out with. Okay, we've all got aspects